Welcome to Sex, Marriage, and Food, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the messy, beautiful, and often hilariously awkward aspects of modern relationships. I'm David, and this is Desiree, your host for this unfiltered journey. Every week, we're going to be pulling back the curtains and get real about the stuff that matters most, from the steamy and sometimes downright weird world of sex to the roller coaster of marriage and relationships. We'll be dishing out advice, sharing our own hilariously imperfect experiences, and tackling the tough topics that everyone thinks about, but no one wants to talk about.
Think of us as your no-holds-bar, tell it like it is guides to navigating the chaos of adulting. We'll be spilling the tea on everything from keeping the spark alive in your relationship to budgeting like a boss, raising little humans, and figuring out what the heck you're doing with your life.
And if that wasn't enough, we'll also be serving up some delicious recipes and food for thought to keep your taste buds and your brain happy.
So grab a seat at our table, pour yourself a drink, and get ready to laugh, cry, and maybe even learn a thing or two. Remember, we're all just figuring out this thing called life as we go. And heck, it's a lot more fun when we do it together.
Let's get started.
Okay. So this is our first official podcast. We've been doing this for a while now. This is our first recorded one that we are publishing, putting out. So I think it would only be fitting to tell them who we are, what we are, what we're doing. Well, I mean, obviously we're human. Well, maybe it's not obvious, but we are.
We could do the Alley-Curran test to prove that we're human. Mark Zuckerberg had to take that test recently. Yeah, because everybody thought he was a robot. Yeah, no joke. Seriously, they thought so he had to take test. And remember that when you check it, when you Alan Turing, you clock into like a new website that says prove that you're a human. You know,
that you're not a robot.
You have to put all the boxes where the car or the stoplights are. Yeah, he had to do that.
Those things frustrate me so much because I'm the person who it's like, you know, it's touch all the parts. That's the bicycle, and there's this little tiny bit of the mirror of the bicycle hanging into a new one, and it's like,
it's there.
Does that count? Does that count?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes it. Sometimes it flags me as a friggin' robot. So anyway, so we're back to the point. We're gonna just dive into who we are.
Absolutely. So why don't you start us off? So your background. I mean, you go into that a little bit for us.
Okay. I'm Desiree. I'm the
Hi,
wife.
Desiree. I'm starting to sound like an AA meeting.
I'm the wife. So just a lot of life experiences in a variety of ways, but I guess a lot of people could say that. So I guess I'll just dive into my education because that's what a lot of people seem to want to know and how they tell your value, which is hilarious because then we're going to go the opposite end with you. So anyways, my education is I have a degree in psychology, minor in criminal justice. I have 2 master's degrees on top of the BA. I have 3 teaching credentials in 2 different states.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Pear tree.
Pear tree par. I'm thinking golf par.
So I am definitely educated, and I've found my niche as far as gathering. I'm a researcher. I love gathering all the facts, but it's funny because you're more of a researcher than I am. You bring together the data. But I love connecting people with knowledge and ideas. And I love using real life experiences, parables almost, of how to help people connect. And you've done that a lot to help me heal from past childhood, adolescent trauma, which, I mean, you know, we all have some form of that. So it's, bringing all of that together in information and making it fun and relatable with our own journey, life experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now put the focus on you.
Oh, well, let me just touch up on your thing too. I mean, you have a lot of accomplishments both in the academic world, but also from you've gotten experience being a stay-at-home mom,
Yes.
a stay-at-home wife. That wasn't enough, so you took it another level. You started your own business. Now you're doing that.
Correct.
So you have a lot of accomplishments both in and out of, say, the classroom.
Oh,
So,
very much so.
You're ambitious. You're driven, but you've managed to tackle both with trying to be a leader and the responsibility of being a mom and a wonderful wife too. So yeah,
Without getting stuck in the rut and the boring,
which is so hard to do.
It is.
So many people struggle.
And especially going from, and I don't want to say corporate world, because teaching was not corporate in any way, shape, or form, but it was very rigid. It was very structured, very routine. And I taught special ed too. So we had to really adhere to schedules in elementary. Bell schedule, this is when everything is. So to then go to the absolute flexibility and freedom of being a stay-at-home mom and entrepreneur, I had a really hard time adjusting. And then to try to find a balance where it fit everybody and still got everything accomplished was very hard. And I lost a lot of confidence because I knew when I was very structured and, I woke up and I reported to a JOB and to a boss and I had things outlined for the day. I mean, I could check off the checklist. I don't know if anybody's like this, but I would put things on my checklist that I had already accomplished so I could check it off so I could feel like I accomplished even more.
It's thing, true. Actually,
it is. It's like positive reinforcement.
We also put together. I mean, there's so much to discuss on this episode, and I want to try to cover it all. But we through it's called School SKOOL.com.
Yeah.
.com. We actually put together a whole academy class too with this. But it's funny you touched on it because that's actually in one of the courses, and it's that kind of the gratification. It's a sense of accomplishment. So you putting down a checklist for a checklist seems redundant, right? But
things I already accomplished, because you would get through the whole day and you're like, dang it, what the heck did I do today? I don't feel like I accomplished anything. But then you go back through and you see, oh, I accomplished a lot. But when I was in the education world, when I was in the JOB world, I knew I had a lesson plan. I had, certain meetings that were scheduled. I was doing this for the district office. I felt very accomplished, and I was, had been there a while. So I was more of the senior and on different boards. And so I had a lot of my confidence from checking off those boxes and doing those things and having the degrees. And then when I came home to being a stay-at-home mom, none of that mattered. Like I could set my own routine. I didn't have to report to anybody. I got to do fun stuff with the kids and we homeschool and all of that was fantastic. And it still is, but I didn't know how to be fulfilled with that.
Now, why was that though? That's an excellent point. I mean, because you had the freedom there to set your own schedule, to adopt some things that work for you, and because you didn't have a boss to report to, you were able to say that doesn't work anymore and cut that out. So you would think that would be more fulfilling. You'd feel more gratification by your actions, by completing things during the day, but you saying you struggled with that.
And I fell into a rut.
Oh, really?
It was like, we're going to do this on this day. We're going to do this on this day. And a part of that was because I had been so, I don't know what the right word is. Conditioned.
Yeah.
That's a much nicer word than I was going to use as to how a school day should look, that I thought my homeschool day should look the exact same for my kids. And that's impossible to replicate, because even in the school system, the days are different. Yeah, you may have a bell at the same time, but you've got assemblies, you've got, behavior meltdown over here, you've got a parent visiting over here, you've got a school psychologist who needs to take notes. So no 2 days are the same, but the outline seems to be the same. So I found that I actually created more of a routine and a rut, and holy moly, was that just boring for everybody. But I also found that I relaxed a lot. And I am a type of person who actually does better under pressure. So then it was how to create the correct amount of pressure to be motivated and feel accomplished, but still having fun, flexible freedom where the kids are learning everything they need to learn.
Right.
They're joyful about it. And we're getting outside and we're doing all the stuff that I specifically remember looking out on a beautiful day going, man, I wish I could take my students outside and do this, this, and this. Man, I wish we could do this. But we couldn't because we were in the confines of a very structured school. And my school was actually very flexible in the fact of we had a bunch of patios. We had a bunch of tables in the patio. And if it was a nice day, we could take our students out, and teachers did, to do their schoolwork out there. So we had more flexibility than a lot. But it was definitely finding that balance of making sure everything gets done, not getting stuck in a rut, not taking for granted the flexibility and freedom and just pushing things off, but creating an appropriate amount of healthy stress to get everything accomplished.
Right.
Okay, so we went way farther into me than we were supposed to in this introduction.
Well, I mean, you do have you have an interesting backstory, and there's so much to touch on. I mean, because the educational part of it, so many people are going to be wanting to know about that. I've been with you this whole time. I still want to know about it. So,
and there's a lot, and it's been years of, because this is what, our third year now of homeschooling. Yeah, it's our third year of homeschooling. And we went from having one homeschooling to now 2 age-appropriate homeschooling, and now 3, even though the baby is.
You want to call her? She's happy with.
She sits up at the table and she demands to have her own markers.
Yeah.
And
that's
her
that monkey
paper.
See, monkey do thing. Then it's amazing. I think she's going to be the most developed one of them all because she sees her 2 other siblings. And she's like, I want to imitate that. I want to do that. So,
right. And there was something I saw that kids don't know what play is. They just want to do life with you. So yes, they're very happy when you're rolling a ball and playing outside. But if you make switching the clothes from the washer into the dryer.
Yeah, she goes nuts. She loves doing that. Unloading the washer.
She loves to have, me hand the clothes to her and then like her slingshot it into the dryer. That's playing for her, but it's accomplishing a task. She loves taking the silverware out of the dishwasher. Okay, like not the knives.
Michael Jordan slam dunking the spoon into the drawer.
I know. So she started helping me unload the dishwasher because she did it. She was just like, she saw me doing it, and so she started doing it. And I don't think I had gotten to reorganize it. And you came down and you're like, what the hell bomb went off in our silverware?
It was like a little pipe bomb went off in our silverware drawer.
Because, she can't see and she's not taking the time. No, she's like sliding it in. She's like chucking it in and it's like, good job, baby. You got it in the right drawer.
Yeah, I love the accomplishment she feels. Versus playing on the ground with her. But
so I had a more formal way of checking the boxes of whether the kids were learning or not, and I missed a whole lot of where they were learning life skills that gave them the true love of learning that she has. And so now I'm trying to kind of go back behind and recreate that with our other 2 kids, because I almost killed that with how structured and rigid I was, which again is not conducive to everybody. Some kids thrive in that. There are a chunk of kids that thrive in that. I know many of my students did. And then there's a whole chunk of kids that it just bombs on them. So it's definitely finding the balance. But so I don't even know where I was going with that, but there you go.
Well, there's a lot of good nuggets in that.
And we'll be discussing it for a lot more. They'll have their own.
Because I mean, for those that don't know, we have our own website. We have a pretty extensive podcast.
Sexmarriagefood.com.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. An extensive podcast that is backed up by blogs.
Yes.
So we put a lot of time and energy into that, and I'm proud of them because we both contributed to them as far as the material and stuff.
But you've really put your heart and soul into the blogs and the coursework.
I did because I wanted something offline that if you're scrolling, you wanted just a little nugget to pull away, or hey, this is interesting, because I tried to make it very factual and back it up with the analytics of core data and studies that have been done by credible universities and other stuff, and try to do the homework for people,
right? Like peer reviewed
material. There was a lot of that, so it was a lot of going back, because that
definitely goes back to my psychology degree, where it was all the different, when you do the research in the labs, and you want to make sure your findings are correct and not skewed or.
And so this is the funny part. So I did not do very good in school. My background is.
Let's dive into you.
Let's touch on me a little bit here.
Because polar opposite.
100%.
He would have been my special ed kiddo.
I was actually special.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you were.
I was for a brief time. And I grew up on a farm ranch doing that. So that was the experience. And that's where I learned the work ethic. I learned the joys of working. And I learned what I learned, actually, like you said, touched on. So not just learning the material, but learning to find a joy in learning. And that's what took root for me. And that's what kind of kept me going all these years. I didn't see much value in school for me personally. I kind of wished I'd, now looking back, but I would, stayed in school and become a doctor or something, because I would have really enjoyed that. But I struggled in school. So I can relate with all the people out there that got the bad grades or stuff, because I was
right. And
like,
a lot of my students, I did a resource. I was mild moderate. So a lot of my kids, one school district I taught emotionally disturbed, and that was all the caseload that I had. But the latter one that I spent the most time at, we had a lot of kids who just had like ADD, ADHD. They were just missing foundational skills, or they had gaps in their education.
Yeah, see, and that wasn't around in my time.
Right.
The ADD, nobody said those words.
Like, I had a kid who was dyslexic. I've had a couple of them. But, I mean, this kid could tear apart an entire car, figure out what was wrong with it, and rebuild the whole friggin' engine in a weekend, but could not read at a third grade level to save his life.
Right. Well, see, and that's the thing. I mean, I grew up with idols like MacGyver.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like MacGyver or James Bond. I wanted to be able to fly. I wanted to be able to do anything and everything without, so that was my motivation, and trying to be the Renaissance man. And I think I came pretty darn close.
Yeah, I would agree.
But moving on there, I managed to sneak through high school. I didn't graduate. It was actually when I met you that you pushed me back to go get my actual diploma, not a GED, but
yeah, you got your diploma.
I did. And I got
you
that.
graduated with your diploma.
Yes.
The same week that I graduated with my second master's, because I tried to drop out. I tried to be a college dropout.
I remember that.
I did at a different one, because I was going to go for special education law. But I didn't see the value or benefit in my second master's. I was like 2 classes away. Like, just finish it. Just do it. And I finished all my coursework and graduated with my second master's the same week that you graduated. Man, no wonder my friends thought we wouldn't last.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get into that. We're definitely getting into that. But no, that was me. And then I went from there. I managed to actually get in and become a firefighter. Worked my tail off there and did that, and did the EMS and firefighting. I loved it and had a lot of fun. Got injured and was like, I'm out. I'm going to go for the money, and started going around doing construction jobs, learning that. My dad was in the asphalt construction world, so learned welding and all that fun stuff.
You operated heavy equipment.
And running heavy equipment, yep. So,
which you have an unnatural ability and gift in. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, something about it was came natural. So, did that and then moved on. But it was actually funny because you just brought that up. But that was the time, my thirst for knowledge, right? That was I was willing to do anything to get into something and to learn. It waited out, and if it made sense, I was willing to sacrifice and work hard for it. Yeah. And I just finished up a year of working a job where the company was on the verge of bankruptcy, so we didn't always get paid. And
you usually didn't get paid.
Yeah, I think I got paid 3 times in the course of a year. I got paid more than that, but the checks bounced. Right.
I remember that, because we had to go into the bank, and I had to help you open up a bank account because your bank history was so terrible from all the bounced checks.
Yeah,
and not checks that you wrote that bounced. Your paychecks.
Yeah.
Yes, your salary checks that bounced.
Yeah. Yeah, not on me and everything else. I remember having to try to check with payroll, like, can I cash this check? And, oh, yeah. And then it bounced. So Yeah.
Well, you told me that you guys would pack up. You were supposed to be on a job for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it was. And you would pack up your suitcases each day because you never knew if you were going to be kicked out of the hotel that night because the bill hadn't been paid.
The card would actually clear that night for the company rooms. Yeah. So it was nuts. And I say living in a trailer, but it was a subpar trailer. It was, I think $1,500. It was something like out of, Breaking Bad out, on the desert, a little meth trailer almost, it was bad.
So, but when we met, you didn't have the trailer. You were
you're right.
Were living in.
Okay, let's give some respect to that car now. That was the old school Cadillac, long nose Cadillac, and it was so much more comfortable than that trailer. It really was, and it did. It floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee.
You were living in a car. It wasn't even your car. You borrowed it.
Yep. Yeah, it wasn't even my car. I did borrow that. Yeah, so I had nothing to my name. I owned a guitar that to this day I still can't play. What else was it? Yeah, that was an interesting time.
And your dad's cowboy hat.
And I still have my dad's cowboy hat. Yeah, but
then I took you to buy new socks and underwear at
Walmart. My clothes were so worn out that it was just it was terrible. But yeah, you two did that. And then I remember I was willing to lie, cheat, or steal anything to get your attention. I remember that. And I remember there was a lot of contention with me and some of your friends.
You were a loser.
Yeah, and your friends were all the highfalutin type, that or would go to the country club dinners and stuff. And
yes, and by the way, you were not a loser, but the perception was
that was it.
What the perception that I really think they had is that you were leeching onto me for my money.
I keep saying this. I'm still waiting for those digits to drop, but yeah. But that was a perception. My parents that there was rich.
Oh yes,
that had this
from
all this money.
3 different sets of your relatives. The phrase "rich bitch who brainwashed our son."
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, yes, I did have my own house.
Yeah, you were driving that that high priced Honda.
It was not. It was value packed. It was a
reliable
4-door. Yes, Honda Civic.
Yeah,
I was proud of that thing.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, and I had my career, so I think the trajectory of where I was going, and the fact that I was so educated, had my own career, had my own house. Like to your family, that just wrote me off as.
Oh, but you were very different than any of the girls I'd run for. I dated bimbos. They were
bimbos.
They
the
were,
bread.
They were yeah. I was all over the board trying to search for what was best for me, what I liked, and some of them had done cover shoots for magazines and things like that, and I found that. They found no value in that. I was kind of bored with that. There was no substance. They had no personality, no intelligence, and I love that about you. You were attractive, but you brought something to the table for conversation wise. You challenged me, and I loved that. That's what really turned me on. And it was like, okay, this is different.
Well, and I think with you, one, I saw your tenacity. I saw your work ethic, especially once I found out the work situation, and that because it was like you're going to work every day. How are you not?
Don't have 2 nickels to rub together.
Yeah. But your friend at the time that you were also working with, he worked for the same company, so it wasn't BS. You were actually telling the truth because on that one. Anyways, so
what I actually got a kick out of it was as much as you were so worldly traveled, right? You'd gone to Europe, a couple times, and you'd done all this stuff, and yet when I told you about my job, I was like, yeah, there's times that we were in California at the time. Then I was working down in Long Beach, living down in Long Beach, out of the company yard, and I would say, hey, I got this call. I got to be in Seattle, Washington tomorrow, and got to pack up and just go to work. And you did not believe me.
No, because, and part of this was the influence of other people. You were just playing the field. And I think that ticked me off the most because at that point I had given up on men. Because I was a little bit older, been through several relationships, and it was like, dude, if you just want to screw around, like, cool, just be honest with me. But you're sitting here telling me you want an actual relationship, and I don't even know if I'm ready for a relationship because I'm kind of done. I'm working on me. And then you cancel at the last damn minute every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, if you want to be seeing other girls, go have fun. Just don't lie to me about it. Like, I'm cool with it. I'm not ready for a serious relationship. And you were hardcore. No, I want to be serious. And then it would come to
we'd have a
boom,
we'd have
be
a
gone.
date to follow up with, and boom, I'd get the call, and yep. Yeah.
So I really thought you were just full of crap.
You wrote me off.
I did.
I remember that. And then I remember it was like they worked us right up until Christmas Eve day. Mm-hmm. Right up till Christmas Eve day. And I remember we were like sending them home $1 million checks each month. Right. So there was no excuse why we weren't getting paid, no stuff. But we still were not getting paid. I'm not going to say the name of the company. I'm not even sure they're still in business now, but they made tons of money. And I remember like the owner brother was on our crew, and he called.
That's the only reason.
He called him up and he's like, "Hey, these guys are sending you guys big checks each month. You need to get them home for Christmas." And there was no commercial flights available. It would take him too long to drive home. So he called a buddy of his up that had a private jet and came pick this up. And I took pictures and video, and that's where I sent you an email.
Yes.
So you tell, yeah.
Okay,
what was your perception of that? That it was email or no, it was an email.
No, it was an email, and I thought you were an asshat. Absolutely, because this is after I was like, you know what? Hey, you can't make a date with me. I'm thinking you're going out on dates with other chicks. Like, you had me as a placeholder if nothing better came through.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, peace. So it was like a couple months later, this email comes, and it's you in the cockpit of this private jet, and all happy. And I can't remember if there was really any text, but I remember there was 2 other chicks' emails. And it was like Funshine 2000. Like, there was no mistaking. They were girl emails. And I'm like, you piece of crap. You couldn't even take the time to separate out and send 3 different
or blind
emails.
CC everybody.
Yeah, something. I'm like, wow, the audacity of this jerk. So I responded something back to you in the email. And then you responded to my email. I don't remember what I said, but I remember what you said in that final email. Who is this? Oh.
That was strategic.
And that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're like almost crying now. You're laughing so hard.
I am remembering because that was funny. It was strategic.
But that was like, you are the biggest jerk on the face. Like, you emailed, like, and I think I said something about like, what, you couldn't even take the time to separate out the emails. And you're like, oh, who's this? Oh, ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell them how?
Well, see, that was a brilliant move. That was strategic because I knew that it was like if I just said, "Hey, how you doing?" the response was going to be weak. So I was like, I've got to get under her skin. I've got to make myself memorable.
Then there was like nothing for, I don't know if it was weeks or a month. I'm not sure how long it was. And then you mofo show up as a friend request on Facebook. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. That's how it works. I slid right into your.
You did. And it was like, oh no, who does he think he is? And I went to delete your friend request. And then I'm like, I want to know what he has to say. And I accepted it. And there we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, it's just my mom and my sister.
I was like, no, you're so full of it. Y'all, it really was his mom and his sister's email.
Yeah.
Like, I can confirm that. Mm-hmm. I mean, not now because, you know, I'm not accepted in the family.
Right. But no, there was a point to that. So it was a strategic move. But yeah, again, I would lie, cheat, or steal I would have done far worse to get you. So it's, yeah.
And I had friends who threatened to harm you.
Yeah.
Cut your body up. Never find the pieces.
And funny enough, all those friends are either no longer friends or they're divorced now. And
well, no, not her. She's,
no.
She was never a naysayer, and she's still a great friend, and she just honestly didn't want to see me get hurt.
But she is divorced.
She is.
See,
She is. She is. That's a whole nother. But the other ones, like I lost a friend and bye-bye because she told me that you were so far beneath me and that we would never last. And that you, in fact, were so far beneath me and her status that she no longer wanted to hang out with us. Like she didn't say it, but she said it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because she thought you would be a bad influence on her fiance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember?
I
remember?
do remember her, yeah. Or them, I should say, yeah. And, yeah, what was funny about it was he was the one that was all tatted out. He was the...
No, it was a completely different couple than that one.
There's more than one. So it wasn't just one.
No, it wasn't just one. No, this was the one that we met years later, ran into him at the Ag Expo and found out like after.
Oh, yeah.
After they had spent like $100,000. After $100,000 on the wedding. I think they've spent like 10 grand on the flowers alone. They lasted maybe 2 years.
Wow. And I was the bad influence.
You were the bad influence, and I was settling for you, and yeah, we were never gonna make it.
Wow, because I know even your mom had doubts about me, and
she did, especially at the beginning, and that trailer, and that car.
They weren't even mine. Well, the trailer was mine actually.
The trailer was yours.
Yeah, but yeah. Well, that's a lot we're gonna have so much fun on these episodes. There's so much more to unpack. I feel like we're scratching at the surface. I know we're short on time, but it's like there's
okay. What
so
else
much.
do we need to talk about?
So we do need to discuss. So we again, we have the website. We talked about the blog. Subscribe. There's no obligation. It's all free. So nothing.
We want to build community. We want to connect.
Yep. This show.
We want to have fun.
We do. We want to laugh about a lot of the hard-hitting issues that are sometimes difficult to discuss. I see people. I love seeing people get tripped up, and you're not the only one that blushes. I made the Taylor down the last week blush. So there are hard issues that need to be discussed, though.
Yeah.
And that's the substance.
Okay. So how did we even get to the podcast?
Oh, okay. You want to or me?
Go for it.
Okay, so rewind on this one. So
back up.
With the podcast, because I have my own business, I was looking at developing something for advertising, marketing, but nothing ever really came for what I needed. But I think that started or planted the seed. Mm-hmm. And then you have a wonderful personality, and you've been on radio before and other news
talk.
Stuff.
Yes.
Yep. So you've always been told you have a wonderful, wonderful stage presence or personality. But we were always trying to struggle with what would we talk about, right? What is one thing we're good at? And the things that I'm good at, I don't necessarily want to go on and have conversations on a podcast about,
right. Because you also thought about doing a YouTube channel. Right. And you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't like that I'm doing it in the first place, and then to go on and record, and then it's. No,
the closest I ever got to doing a YouTube channel was because I'm a pilot. We have an airplane flying, but I had so many friends and people say, you know what, just the FAA loves to watch those, and they'll nitpick you to death on everying, and so don't do it. So don't make that
a focus point. Yeah.
Yeah. Take
and
then you
clips,
being
diesel mechanic. That's the one that you just.
I own that company, and so I'm like I thought about that. I have my guys and me take pictures and video of almost getting hit by trucks, and I'm sure I probably would get good video, but I didn't want to do that.
No.
So, but it was something, and I enjoy working with you. You and I naturally just have conversations going down the road. We will.
We've had some good ones. Like we really need to video our
car drives,
our longer car drives, because the crap that we get into.
Yeah, and they're just sometimes the weirdest conversations.
They are, but they're fun.
We talked about aliens the other day. I think because we saw something about some NASA article, life on another planet, and that brought us into that conversation. And then, and then of course the kids are sometimes in the back, and they ask their questions, and we go
off on a whole different tangent.
It's fun, and and I'm unfiltered for sure.
Good Lord,
you're getting even more. So, and we just let it go.
But we also bring the facts. We bring the evidence. We do research. We come back
as a prime example, today I brought brought up the conversation about Gatorade, how I saw something about the different colors of Gatorades mean different things. Well, we didn't leave it at that. You went in and did your own research.
And it's bull.
It's
bull.
You little Mythbusters thing. Yeah, you proved it wrong. So I mean, there's stuff like that. It was, we have that thirst for knowledge and asking why.
And
so with the podcast, there was one night we were getting ready for bed, and I don't remember because I remember this was the idea. We got a short time, but I do want to bring it. This was your original idea, though. So go ahead.
It was. Well, because I had been trying to figure out what I was going to do next, how I was going to be more fulfilled, more satisfied, how I was going to bring in my education along with everything else, and build a course or build something. But I had no idea what I knew enough about.
Right.
Which is crazy because I'm overeducated. And you and I were just joking and talking back and forth. And it just kind of came to light that it was like, we know this really well. We know how to dive into really tough topics that cause a lot of division.
That's a good word. Yeah. I was going to say strife, division. Yeah, 100%.
Divorces.
Yeah.
Things that people should talk about but don't talk about because they're very, very uncomfortable. Usually it's, in the therapist office, either individual therapy or couples therapy. And by that time it might be too late, or you might, be having other issues. And we just naturally, well, not naturally, it took a lot of hard work.
Natural about
no,
it.
you're right. That was a falsehood on my
It feels
account.
natural now because we put these things in place. Yeah.
And that was a driving point of you and your curiosity, and you just keep digging. And it's like, okay, fine, I'll be honest. With myself a lot of times. So that was like, man, we do this really, really well. We have our friends tell us, man, how do you do that? How do you guys have the relationship that you have, especially after all the crap you've been through? Legal separation. Yeah, that's us. Legal separation, court documents.
Yep.
Ups and downs, moves, transfers, living away from each other for extensive parts of time. Like, we've been through some of the most stressful situations that most marriages do not make it through.
Yeah, there's no coming back.
But we're stronger than ever. So that's how it came to be. And it was like, well, we have knowledge on this. We could actually do a podcast about this. We can work together. We can find enjoyment. We can have fun. We could bring it as AV club for the kids for
it was part of a homeschooling thing too. Yep, because they wanted to do their own kid, the little Tiny Titans, I think they're calling their show, stuff. So it was good. I mean, I remember that night we were, like I said, getting ready for bed, laying down, something happened, whatever else, and it just you sparked that creative side of my brain. And I was like, yeah, we should call it sex, marriage, food. The three things that we all love or chase after, or aspire to be, or want, or something, and you're like, yep. And it was funny about that. It came so naturally. We didn't even examine any other names. It was like,
normally
that's it.
Having sex in the topic would just have like embarrassed me. I would have totally shut in, but it was after a 2-day intensive retreat that we did, just you and I,
ourselves upstairs,
and just work through some stuff. And it was like, no, but this is uncomfortable, and that's okay. I need to be more comfortable with the uncomfortable. That was literally one of the topics we talked about. So it's like, dang it, let's go with it.
Right. Yeah. And so that's where we sat down. And then, of course, I went on my little cycle of saying, okay, let me do some research, find out. And I found there's like just a ton of podcasts out there. But a significant large part of them were all just audio. And I thought, how cool would it be to be able to bring in the video side of this as well? Because I was going to be uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable on video.
You're very stiff. I'm not physically where I want to be, because I've still got baby weight. I don't have all the things.
You look amazing. But
thank you. But neither one of us were comfortable being on video. So it was like, here's another challenge to stretch ourselves to conquer fear or insecurities. Let's do it.
Yep. And then I'm behind in tech so much, it's insane. So that was a big stretch for me. I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I got into it and researched it. And here we are,
and apparently my face says a whole conversation with it.
And what's amazing about you is you can have conversations, a whole entire conversation without saying anything. And that's because I've learned how to read you. That's helped so much be able to with this relationship, is to be able to say, oh, she's uncomfortable, she's nervous about something, or something's bothering her. Let's get down to
because my face just goes, it says it. even though I'm not
Face,
saying it.
body language, and we cover that too in our academy class.
We do. So a lot of our blog and academy stuff, it's knowledgeable. It's great. I don't think it's like lacking, but it can be boring, especially if you're just going after one section to another. So bringing in the audio, the visual,
Right.
and then just our back and forth and poking at each other.
Oh, we haven't
and
even
humor.
started.
Oh no,
We
this
haven't
is
even
kind
started.
of a dry episode.
Yeah, this is
like
just
this
like,
is
okay,
not.
I'll do an introduction. No, we get at each other. I mean, that's part of the course too, is poking fun of your spouse in
Yes.
a loving way. And, then
In a
we go
living way.
into the rules and some of the tools we picked up that are in our toolbox about, how to fight, how to argue, how to make fun of each other, not assuming the worst. And I'm just touching on a little bit here or there, but yeah, there's so many great topics there. We're going to cover them, here, but we're just being filtered at this point. At this episode with today, we're just being filtered. There's so much more to come, and I'm excited. I really am. So,
Okay, then let's sign off so we can get to our next one.
I agree. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to many episodes. So
To seeing you on here, to having you visit the website.
leave comments, hate mail, whatever. Send it to me. I love it. She's not so much.
No, I'm still
on the
sensitive.
comments. So I'll read the comments. I love
But yeah,
it. So
come visit us. We love questions. We'll do our best to provide answers.
and we're gonna have guests
And content. We're gonna have lots of guests.
From BDSM, if you know what that is, look it up. To intimacy in and out of the bedroom, PDA, and so much more. But also, I now love to cook, and so we have cooking recipes to make things hopefully easier for you, because we like everybody else. We argue about what's for dinner, so we got great recipes.
And nobody wants to cook.
Nobody. Well, I do. I love to cook now, and the kids
You do.
love me cooking. So,
They do. They do.
There's that. But
I'm
all right.
just worn out.
Yeah. So
Okay.
all right, that's it. So
See
see you
ya.
next time. Bye.